Okay, now we jump into the media personalities draft. We've done this before. I didn't look it up. I didn't want to be, I guess, affected by my previous thoughts on this or even yours. So I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. But yeah, this is pretty simple concept. We both draft 10 college football media personalities. That can be announcers. I mean, either
Yeah.
play-by-play or color. That could be sideline reporters. It can be studio analysts, podcasters, uh, reporters, all of it. It's kind of all open. So first of all, as we do with all of our drafts, I will flip a coin, and
Okay.
we will see who gets to draft first. So Ashton, heads or tails?
Tails. Yes. Always.
It is heads. I think I've won
Okay.
2 in a row
All
now.
right.
That's like a new for me.
Yeah,
Usually you win.
I know. I usually do. That's right. Now, can I just say real quick? I had a definite number one that I wanted to
Okay.
take. So for what that's worth, this is actually disappointing for me because I felt there was a clear first choice.
I in a few different areas that we talked about, like all the different specific jobs, I have a clear number one in a few different areas. It's a
Okay.
little harder for me when I compare, it's how do you compare a studio analyst to a play-by-play guy or whatever?
Right. Right.
But with my first pick, I will be going with Josh Pate of the Late
Okay.
Kick with Josh Pate podcast. We've been talking about him for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know that I always find myself agreeing with Josh Pate, and I guess I would view us as slightly different than him, just because in some ways I do feel like we get down to the weeds a little bit more, where he's a little bit more overarching. It
Yeah.
feels like,
Yeah.
but I do really value his voice in college football and think he does a really good job. Um, yeah, and it just feels like he has a perspective that is uniquely his own. You're not
Mhm.
hearing some canned, regurgitated stuff that you hear from a lot of other people. And so that's refreshing to hear from him. When I hear his opinion on something, I value it even if I don't agree with it.
I think that's fair. And we were big Pate fans, from back in the day, like back when it started,
Mhm.
back when late kick was just kind of getting off the ground there. It does seem though, the last couple of years, here's why Pate wasn't my number one choice. And it seems like the last couple of years, he has sold himself a little bit in
Mm.
this for the sake of like access. Like he wants access to these coaches, his little, spring tour that he goes on or whatever. And he wants to stay on the sidelines, which by the way is great. But he's gone, I think, from becoming one of us, like one of the fans, and feeling like a fan, to now he's one of them. Like he is one of the media personalities, like, you know what I'm saying though? Like it has changed a little bit. I
Not a lot of
agree
negativity coming from him about
at
coaches.
all.
Yeah.
Zero. Like it feels like he never actually truly says what he thinks if it's at all negative. He's very quick to, pile on the praise. But at some point, like someone does lose these games, and someone like there's, coaches do get fired, and he just doesn't want to talk about it until after it comes out. And then after it comes out, he'll be like, well, those of us that were in the know, like we knew this was coming down the line for a while. It's like, okay, but that does no good. Like you have to tell us, or else,
Mhm.
yeah, we don't respect you anymore. So
That is a
I,
little disappointing to me that you said that, because I like him. He wasn't necessarily my top choice, but I thought he was probably your top choice, and I wanted
okay.
him on my team. So that's why I went with him first. I took a gamble there and lost, I guess.
Yeah, I'll shoot. Yeah, hate that for you. Yeah, he was not going to be, honestly, I don't know if I would have taken him in my top 10 right now.
Okay.
I
Wow.
don't know. He has really fallen down. I'm going to go my number one selection. This was a consensus pick for me because I think it's the amount of professionalism that this guy brings. He is one of the media types. He's a play-by-play guy. Chris Fowler at ESPN
Mm.
does a fantastic job. I thought Chris Fowler, okay, we're going to get into the weeds on this quite a bit, but the whole ESPN Florida State Kirk Herbstreit debacle, the college game day debacle that was pretty much this whole year, where they're just going at certain programs, Chris Fowler was able to stay above all of that. Reese
Mm.
Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, Pat McAfee, for whatever reason, he's not even, I don't even include him in this, but like they got, and they're in big trouble. I think that's going to be a really big problem for them starting as soon as next year. Chris Fowler was able to keep himself clean of all of this. He stated his opinion only slightly. He's been very he stayed away, and because he calls the big games. He calls the championships. He's going to start calling the SEC championship starting this year, right? He's calling playoff games, usually the biggest ones. So it's very important to have a voice that you view as non-biased. Whereas, yeah, Kirk Herbstreit, his partner, has been nothing but biased, all off season. So Kirk Herbstreit used to be Mr. College Football. Chris Fowler, though, for me, has taken that mantle from him. I trust what Chris Fowler says a lot. I really respect his voice.
That's really interesting. I feel like 2 years ago, the last time we did this, I was way higher on Fowler. I think he was maybe my first or second pick.
Yeah.
I really like him. Great pick by you. I don't have any problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
He just sounds like college football. He's one of those voices that is synonymous with the sport. And like you mentioned, he's not out there causing any like issues in his replies. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, he's not fighting with people online. He feels very professional. Yeah, definitely respect Chris Fowler. My next pick is also a play-by-play guy. This may have been my first one. It's very close. I'm going with Joe Tessitore.
Love Joe Tess.
I love Joe Tess. The excitement, it's a little different flavor than Chris Fowler. If anything, it's almost a deeper voice, and it's more excitement. Like, and maybe that's just because he has been privileged to have some of the biggest moments in the sport over the years. I think the main one I always think about is the Michigan State punt block or whatever from, I guess it's been about
like when his voice was
8 or 9 years ago now. I just think he does such a good job. In some ways, he is like a mixture of Chris Fowler and Gus Johnson. like he finds that balance that I really enjoy, where he is professional, but he also does get excited.
I like that pick. I agree, by the way. Tess has been fantastic. His voice is so it's so specific. Like you can, when you hear his voice, and it's a little bit that way with Sean McDonough as well. Like their voice is so different from everyone else's that it's like you remember games that they call, right? Like we'll always remember like the punt block, the punt block game that you talked about. And I agree. Tessitore, he does a fantastic job. He always comes in just with class. Like it just feels so well done. I love when he calls Georgia games. Love that. Like that's fantastic. So yeah, I mean, that's just a great pick. For me, okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Like, I really don't like Kirk Herbstreit right now. Like the whole College Game Day, the whole crew, they can all just shove off. And normally we would be taking Kirk Herbstreit by now. I'm gonna keep letting him slide. Like I'm that irritated with him. And it's not just the fact that he was on the wrong side of the Florida State playoff argument. He also Kirk Herbstreit also went and he asked, or I'm not going to say asked, he influenced the number 1 overall quarterback Dylan Raiola, who was a Georgia commit at the time. He influenced him away, and Raiola ends up at Nebraska. Stuff like that. It just really made me irritated at Herbstreit, and yeah, the Pat McAfee stuff. The whole game day, I'm just so done with it right now. And I think they're going to have a harsh reception next year. Like, question for you, just a little side tangent. I know we're not supposed to go on those. Like, can College Game Day ever go back to Tallahassee ever? Like, I think they're going to try. Like, they're going to try to go back. And I don't think they realize what's going to happen to them. It's like, they should not try to do that. Don't go.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to happen at some point. Does it feel kind of like Herbie got so big that it feels like he got so big he almost didn't realize how big he was? And so that when he did kind of have a few things that were a little, I don't know, maybe some bad takes, if we just put it that way. Like
Mm-hmm.
that had a bigger effect, I think, than he probably anticipated. I think quite frankly, I think he influences the college football playoff committee more than he would
Absolutely.
realize. And that's not
Absolutely. Yes.
necessarily his fault, but if he is coming out here with some of these takes that we disagree with, um, like that is going to be amplified. Like more than if somebody on ACC network says the exact same thing or whatever. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's
Yep.
just such a big voice that anytime he does have something that you disagree with him on, you just notice it that much more.
It's a fair point, and he maybe didn't realize it, but he should have, because Kirk
Mm,
Herbstreit and I think to a little bit of a lesser degree, Joel Klatt, like
mm,
from on the same, he's the same guy on Fox. They absolutely are trying to influence people, and I think they're trying to influence the committee like a little bit, and they should know that. They should know that they do have that pull. Kirk Herbstreit set up Florida State to get left out weeks in advance,
mm.
and then is trying to play dumb when it happens and blame an injury. Yeah, things like that. And then I think recently he hasn't been able to let it go either. He's been arguing on Twitter saying that, everyone else doesn't watch the amount of games that I watch. It was well, you call a game. I'm watching 3 games, one of which is yours. You can only be watching your game. So, I mean, I can do the math. Like, I can watch. Don't call us all dumb here. We're not all stupid. Like,
Yeah.
we do watch games too. And he had a little bit of that, a little bit of holier than thou, kind of Mr. High and Mighty. And and he is, and like he is that guy, like he is Mr. High and Mighty. But it was it was just very frustrating to watch, because yeah, there are so many of the guys that used to be, like one of us. Like we talked about Josh Pate being one of us. Herb Street in some ways felt like he was kind of one of us. And the last year, they have really not, like, they've really kind of went and done they've kind of they're pursuing influence, I guess. I'm not sure what it is. It's definitely not the fans. They do not care about the fans. That's been very, very obvious. And yeah, it matters to me. I'm going to let Kirk Herbstreit continue to slide down. I know that was a side tangent. It's bothered me for a while. I hope game day tries to go back to Florida State this year. Like, let it
Yeah.
happen. I want to see it. It's going to be a train wreck. And I honestly think the people at ESPN are cocky enough and arrogant enough to try to pull it off, because it's going to be a disaster if that happens. So anyway, that's, yeah, enough of that. I'm clearly moved past all of that and don't have strong feelings about it at all. But so for my number 2 pick, I'm going to go with another just classic voice, another, like, you hear his voice, play-by-play guy. You hear his voice, and it just feels like big-time college football. And I'm going to go with Brad Nessler. I think
Oh,
this guy has been just class personified for a long time. They called the SEC on CBS games, therefore I got to watch a lot of them, right?
mhm.
And they're gone now. I'm going to miss Brad and Gary. Like, it used to be Vern and Gary, now it's Brad and Gary. I'm going to miss them. Like, they're going to take that music, the dun 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 dun, and they're going to try to take that to the Big Ten. Like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that, man. I maybe not even mixed feelings, just feelings, hard feelings about it. I really liked Brad and Gary. I'm sad they're gone. I think Brad Nessler is a fantastic play-by-play guy, and he's one of those guys, when you know that he's calling your team's game, you're excited about it, because like he just comes in and just with just a little bit of elegance. He just does such a clean, neat job of calling those games.
Sure. Um, it's I'm interested that we've already got 3 play-by-play guys off the board through our first 4 picks, and I might keep it going. I think a lot of maybe 2 years ago, we might have had more interest in some of the color guys. Like some of the
Mm-hmm.
color guys went higher.
Yep,
Um, I still expect to take some color guys, but I think with my next pick here, I'm taking Sean McDonough. Um,
it's great
yeah,
job.
just does a really
Yep.
good job. And what is it that what does it say that we've kind of had this focus on professional play-by-play voices who just do a really good job and don't cause any controversy? Is there something to that, or am I reading too much into that? Because that's 4 of our first 5 picks.
Well, I mean, we've been burned a little bit, right? I mean, me and you were both a little chapped with the way everything ended last year. I mean, it's not. I think it's more than just the fact that some of those guys waded in and engaged in conversation. I'm good with conversation. I'm good with having arguments and disagreeing with guys like Herb Street. in the college game day guys about something. I'm okay with disagreeing about a topic, but when you log on and you go and tap out on Twitter and say that I watch more games than anyone and you're dumb and it should be my way because I'm smart. That it's a tough look, right? Like they just
Yeah.
kind of call you dumb all the time, and so yeah, it does make you want to go for someone like a McDonough or Joe Test or Nestler or Fowler. It makes that attractive, right? And there is room for personalities. There absolutely is, and we're going to get into some really great personalities here. But sometimes when you're just coming down to a play by play, when you turn on your team's game, who do you want to see? I think that's a really good metric. Yeah, and clearly, clearly we value it a lot. We really like the classic voices.
I will also say some of this has like I think I appreciate a good play-by-play guy more now than I used to. Um,
Yeah.
like okay, I'm a Notre Dame fan. We used to have Mike Tirico calling our games.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Now he's Sunday Night Football for NBC, and it's been a struggle bus. Like he's really the only good one that Notre Dame has ever had in my lifetime. Um, Tom Hammond back in the day. Uh, and now Jack Collinsworth has been the guy the last couple years. And it's just such a huge drop off. Like it is, you just really notice it when you don't have that quality in the booth, and it just stands out more. It makes the good ones really stand out better. So, yeah, I guess that's why I personally appreciate a good play-by-play guy is because of how much I notice it when there's a bad one. But anyway, that puts it to you with your third pick.
So I'm going to go down to the sidelines here. I'm going to go ahead and get Cole Kublik.
Okay.
I'm a fan. I watch a ton of SEC football stuff. I think Cole is he's a treasure, like just a national treasure. I think he does a really good job. Listen to his podcast. When you get a breakdown from him on the field, it's usually something that you're learning. Like I watch a ton of college football, and usually when he says something, it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, or like I hadn't considered that. I think he does a great job at bringing it all in, to a fan's perspective. He's a former player, so he has a lot of knowledge. He does a great job. I enjoy watching him, and I think he's going to be a guy that's on the rise. Like it would not surprise me at all in 5 years from now that like Cole Kublik is not Mr. College Football, but like one of those guys, like one of the Kirk Herbstreits and Klatts of the world. I think he's that talented.
He feels like one of those rare, I don't know how rare, but it feels somewhat rare that you have a former player who's not a quarterback and isn't completely biased like towards his position group
Right.
or towards
Right.
his school or towards his time. Like players are soft now, all that stuff. Like it just feels like
Mm-hmm.
he has a fairly balanced view. I don't listen to him a ton. I may not have picked him, but I definitely respect the pick. I think he does a good job for sure. Yeah. All right. That gets to me so far it's been relatively easy for me. It's harder now. Um, yeah, I think it's time for me to take a color guy, and I'm down to two that I'm looking at. Maybe more later. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and take Robert Griffin the third.
Oh
He's
wow.
he's just fun. Like I don't know that you're going to usually get the most deep breakdown, the most professional. We've talked about that a lot because he can be a little bit unprofessional, some of his jokes, but I enjoy that, I guess, more coming from a color guy. Um, Sometimes it's a little off color. Maybe you should be considered an off color guy.
Yeah.
But I just like RG3. I even enjoy him on Twitter. I don't follow him, but I see his tweets all the time. And he has a certain joy that he brings to following college football that is really fun. We hear a lot about how terrible things are going all the time and all the bad things, and he just seems like he's really enjoying himself all the time, even when it's like a Friday night game between two, 3 and 4 teams or whatever. Like he just seems like he enjoys the job. I
Mhm.
think he does a pretty good job of breaking it down, but doing it in a fun way. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable X's and O's guy. out there, as long as you're having fun. And plus, I always enjoyed him as a player too. He was a fun player to watch. So maybe that is affecting my view of him. But I really like RG3.
He's kind of the new age
Sure.
color guy, right? Like because I mean, I think it's very interesting, and like these announcers and these personalities drafts, really, it's a matter of taste. Really, is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
just because one guy might be for you, he may not be for the next guy. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead. This could be controversial. I'm gonna take Joel Klatt with my next pick.
Okay.
He is a Big Ten guy. He is anti-SEC guy. He's open with that. He's not trying to hide that. He's open with it. But like for me, at least he's open with it. Like at least it's not jaded. He's like, yeah, he's pretty good. He's like, I cover these guys, and like I root for these guys. And it just kind of is what it is. And in some ways I kind of respect that, because there was part of me that when the SEC locked in their deal with ESPN, they're ESPN only now, it did make me sad. I would have really enjoyed having Gus and Joel call a Georgia game. I think it would
Sure.
be excellent. I think they do an excellent job at it. And I do enjoy watching their games when it's from from a neutral perspective. I enjoy watching their games. I think he does a really nice job. I listen to his podcast. I think he does a really nice job there. I think he's informative. So he is a homer, but like he's open with it. And so in that way, it's kind of like okay, like I guess I can get behind that. And I think he's very entertaining. I think he does a really good job. I think he's great on TV. So is it maybe a little early for Klatt? Maybe I might have reached just a little bit. But I think it's appropriate though. He calls a lot of big games, and he's becoming a voice. Or he has become a voice. He is a voice. At the top of college football. So I'll go ahead and take him with my fourth pick.
I respect that. I actually, I think it was just before this last season, I want to say, I heard him on someone else's podcast, and he mentioned the idea of, sorry, I'm second guessing when I heard it. It was in the last year. He mentioned the idea of college football partnering with the NFL to get better times for some of their games, and
Yeah.
and just to, I don't even know how to say it exactly how he said it. I'm not even sharing the idea very well, but he had some fresh perspectives, some fresh ideas I had never heard. And I'm pretty on Twitter. Like I see a lot of stuff over and over and over again, and he's a voice that he does see things from a little bit different perspective, and he does have some fresh perspective on stuff, and I thought that was really cool. And I mean, he's a color guy, and ultimately he does that job really well. So, I don't begrudge that pick by you at all. It's funny, we're going on runs now because I am going to take Kirk Herbstreit now. So now we have our third straight color guy after like a bunch of play-by-play guys.
Question for you, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Has he dropped, in your opinion, due to his behavior the last 6 months?
Herbstreit. Oh yeah, he would have been picked way earlier, before the last 6 months, and I don't even necessarily think, like, I don't even hold some of that stuff against him as much as some other people do.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I think I respect his opinions less than I used to. He is still one of the best, in my opinion, of breaking down what just happened on 3rd and 6, and why did the quarterback make that specific play. Just 5 seconds after the play is over, he's very good at diagnosing what happened. So as far as the actual game day color commentator, X's and O's guy, not quite as fun as RG3, but a better X's and O's guy, I would say. I think he's one of the best at that part of the job. So I still do respect him for that part.
Yeah, I hear that. You're right too, because he is the voice still. Like, I mean, quite literally. Like, NCAA football is coming back out here in a couple of months, and he's in it. Like, he's the voice, and he was the voice in 2014 when it left. Like, he's been on there for so long at this point, and you just, like, for those of us that that grew up playing that video game, like he was football, like he was college football, and maybe that's why I am disappointed in him. I probably held him to a higher standard than the rest. I probably thought that like he is the guy, like he is Mr. College Football, and he's supposed to be impartial, and his word should be law. And apparently, yeah, the committee felt that way as well. So yeah, I think maybe we had him, you know, I don't know, too highly elevated. I'm not sure. Maybe we just expected too much from him, and it's been very disappointing, honestly, to see him, yeah, kind of fall down this. I'm not going to say a rabbit hole, but yeah, wherever he's at right now, it's a tough headspace. So I also him calling NFL games has not endeared him to me anymore. Like, just because you get to go call NFL games and you get to show pictures of how much you fly around the country, if anything, I'm going to think that you care less about my game because you haven't had as much time to prepare. You know, like Joel Klatt, at least, you know, he has one game. He has one game a week, and that is his Super Bowl, and he treats it, you know, as such. Whereas, you know, Herbie just flies around with his dog all the time. But anyway, moving on. I need to move on. I'm still so stinking frustrated at that guy. But we'll go to Brady Quinn. I'm gonna take Brady Quinn. I really like the Fox Big Noon segment. I think that whole staff, and really the idea is really interesting. Obviously, I'm an SEC guy, but I do watch a ton of Fox. I care about college football. I watch it all. So yeah, I watch a ton of Fox. I think he does a really, really good job. He is one guy that I think is a little underrated right now. I think the whole Rob Stone does a great job. Matt Leinart does a great job. Even Reggie Bush, I've grown to like. Urban Meyer I don't know, he can kick rocks. I don't know why he's really there. But Brady Quinn also is fantastic. For my money, he's the best one up there. From a college football perspective. So yeah, he does a great job. I'll take him with my pick. That is my fifth pick there. So yeah, I feel that's about right. Brady Quinn at 5 for me.
Look at you taking the Notre Dame guy. I love it. By the way, Notre Dame fans on message boards have been pleading with NBC to steal him from Fox for like 5 years. Just put him on the broadcast, but yeah, they don't want to do that. So
he'd do a great job. He would do a great job.
Yep, he would. All right. For my next pick, I am going to take. This is maybe a bit off the beaten path a little bit, but I'm going to take Tom Fernelli from CBS Sports, specifically with the Cover 3 podcast. I've listened to that podcast for a long time as well. And it's interesting how they all kind of have their lane. Chip Patterson is kind of the head guy, and he's like all personality. Then you have Bud Elliott, who's all data,
math.
Yeah. And then Tom Fernelli seems to blend those two together, where he has his own rankings, just like Bud Elliott does, that, you know, his own computer rankings that he comes up with, and he follows the data, but he also is a good, fun personality, knowledgeable. He's more of a, he just seems like more of a people person, or at least more comfortable in front of a microphone than Bud Elliott does. So in some ways, I just enjoy listening to him the most of anybody on there.
I also, you know, love the podcast. I listen to a ton of that, and it's been a lot of fun. He is actually more well known, I think, than what we realize. He's actually
on Twitter a lot.
He's actually kind of a big name. So I think maybe, we view him as just, you know, like Tom from the podcast that we listen to. He's a big name. He played football, he played college. And I love listening to those guys. They're a lot of fun. I noticed you did not mention Danny Cannell.
He's fine.
He's fine. He's fine. He's honestly, you listen to this pod, and Cannell is on this pod with the other guys. He is not as much of a troll on there as what he is on Twitter.
Oh, not even close. Yeah.
Not even close. Twitter Danny Cannell is far, far worse. He's actually halfway likable, like, kind of. So yeah, I hated Cannell. I absolutely I think I had him blocked on Twitter for a long time. And then I started listening to him, and he's really actually fairly level-headed. So yeah, for what it's worth. No, I'm not trying to defend Cannell. Definitely not taking him in my top 10. But yeah, for what it's worth, my 2 cents. My next pick, I'm going to go with a Florida guy, Jesse Palmer. I'm going to go with Jesse Palmer. He actually he's the compatriot of Joe Tess on ESPN, as you know, part of that crew. I think he has excellent analysis. Enjoy listening to him. He comes across as like super prepared. I think it's not just because he played, but that whole broadcast between Tess and Jesse Palmer, they come across as so smooth, and like they've done just so much research. I think Palmer is excellent. not just because he was a player, but yeah, he's just classy. Absolutely, yeah, classy. Just broadcast in general when those two are on it. So I'm going to take him with my sixth pick. I think it's about the right spot for him to go.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were such a big fan of The Bachelor, but interesting.
I'm not. Yeah, I actually did not know he was on there. I could not tell you anything about it.
Yeah. All right. For my next pick, there's a couple different names here I'm looking at. Right now, I'm looking, sorry, at kind of just guys that are good at their job. My next pick will be Bill Connolly, who is the proprietor of the SP Plus rankings. Um, I don't know that I enjoy him quite as much on ESPN as back in the day when he was at SB Nation. Everything's behind a paywall now.
Yeah.
But I really do think he has one of the best analytic systems out there for college football, and I value that a lot. So you could almost say I'm drafting SP Plus more than I'm drafting Bill Connolly, but I do really enjoy what he's done for college football over the last 10 years and think he has one of the best systems out there. So I'll take Bill Connolly.
We've not listened to, we've followed his stuff a lot, and definitely just from a numbers perspective brings an interesting take to a lot of just teams and trends and stats. It's really interesting. A lot of really good insight. So for my next one, I'm going to go ahead and take Gus Johnson from Fox. So I will get Klatt and Gus Johnson. I also have Brady Quinn. Kind of Fox heavy here a little bit. Maybe I like that. I'm not sure. Gus, it's more than just the screaming when it gets exciting. It's more than just, what was it, Maserati Marv last year? I didn't like the nickname at all for Marvin Harrison. That was a terrible nickname. He does a great job, and his voice is it's just signature. Like you can recognize, so distinct. You can just hear a little bit of the game. You know exactly what's going on. You know who's calling it. I enjoyed when he called basketball games. I've really enjoyed Gus Johnson. He still does call basketball games actually, but I think that Fox Big Noon, I'm a fan of that. I think they do a great job. I think it's very professional. And I think, I love Gus. Him and Klatt together, I think, do a great job.
I agree with you. I feel like he's lost half a step. He's just a little more likely to forget names or say the wrong thing or whatever, or not catch on to what just happened. I think that happens a little bit more now than it used to with him. He's still a great listen. He still brings unmatched energy to a broadcast. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with Gus Johnson. I definitely respect that pick. All right, that goes to me with my eighth pick. And kind of sticking with the tune of just people who are good at their jobs, I'm going to go with Bruce Feldman, kind of the Woj of college football, Adrian Wojnarowski, if you will. And he also, I do hear him on podcasts every once in a while. In those rare moments, he does seem like he does a good job of sharing his opinions, sharing what's going on in the world of college football. Specifically, I hear him sometimes on the Ryan Russillo podcast, which is a general sports podcast, and it's probably more NFL and NBA fans than anything else. And so I think he does a good job of portraying what's happening in college football to a larger sports fan base, if you will.
Yeah, don't mind it. He is kind of, I mean, you mostly just follow him for his Twitter account, right? I mean, that's most of the reason there. And he does a nice job there, but it's not not a huge personality, but just more just information. So that is to me, this is pick number 8 for me. Is that right? So we're moving right on through this. So I only have 3 more picks left. I am going to go with Jordan Rodgers. That may feel a little, hopefully not funny, but I think, how about this? Between Cole Kubelik, Jordan Rodgers, if I could get Tom Hart yet, that's that whole broadcast crew on the SEC network. Those guys do fantastic work there. And I feel like if they were on, the ESPN main channel or, even ESPN2, FS1, I think they would be, I think they would be higher than what they are now. So I think I'm kind of getting a little bit of a discount. I think they do a fantastic job. The SEC network games are elite. That is a
Yeah.
professional crew. They do a really nice job. They do like while still being professional, they also get into what makes each culture specific at the place that they're at. They're very big on kind of getting into to each school's culture a little bit, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll go ahead and take Jordan Rodgers there, not necessarily because of him, but more because of the job that whole crew does. I think they're really, really good.
Yeah. I like that. It's getting tight here. I have more people that I want to draft than I can fit in my draft. My next pick, I think I'm going to go Reese Davis, ESPN, and maybe part of it is just the versatility. Obviously,
Okay.
he's kind of the host of College Game Day, but he also calls games as a play-by-play guy, and I think he does a good job at both.
The selection show as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's you could almost go. I almost went Rob Stone like from Fox. He's kind of the Fox version, and I think he does a really good job. Um, I guess I'm a little more familiar with Reese Davis from. He's been doing it for a long time, um, and maybe it's just because I see him a little bit more, and that's the tiebreaker. I don't know, but I like both of them. Like I think they both do a good job. Um, Reese Davis, another thing that I like, and I failed to mention this in several other guys, maybe specifically like Tom Fernelli. Um, I kind of like when guys don't shy away from the fact that there is one school that they attended and that they sort of prefer. Reese Davis doesn't do this in broadcasts, but I've heard him in podcasts talk about how he went to Alabama and like his whole family roots for Alabama, and he doesn't maybe embrace it as much as well, like Tom Fernelli especially embraces it as an Illinois fan. Um,
Yeah.
I like when guys don't try to like hide that. Like it's okay if you have some rooting interest. Like that means you're one of us. Like you're
Yeah.
not totally immune from all of that. Like you haven't put it all behind you. You still understand the passion and what it means to people. Um, and Reese Davis, maybe he's a weird guy to use that as an example on because he's not really that outspoken about it. It's more
Right.
just in some of the podcasts and stuff that, not near as many people hear as a broadcast. But because like I guess just thinking about him and going to Alabama, it reminded me of some of the other guys, and I forgot to mention that about Fernelli especially. It's okay, man. You're allowed to be an Illinois homer, because I know the rest of the time when you're talking about anybody else, you're being pretty level-headed. Um, and now I don't have to worry about where I don't have to wonder, excuse me, about okay, who's this guy actually cheering for and trying to hide it? Like if you put your bias out there where everyone can see it, then we don't have to wonder. And we don't have to wonder about every single thing you say. So I guess that's another reason why I've never shied away from, hey guys, I'm a Notre Dame fan. And I think I'm pretty level headed, but also I'm probably going to have some biases.
Yeah. No, it's fair. Reese Davis, by the way, he does a really, really good job at orchestrating. I guess
Hmm.
I'm just sour with the whole ESPN thing and game day in
Fair.
particular, that like I'm just kind of out on the whole thing. But he does a great job. You're right. Like there's no question about it. But and the bias is there for him, and whatever. That was on display again this year. I should be moving past this. Full disclosure, I should probably be moving on past this. I can't quite let it go. It's been months and I'm I just as sour as can be about it. But um I will move on at some point, and I will move on here in this draft. So this is my ninth pick, right? I and you're right. We're getting really tight here, but I'm going to go with a beloved character. We talk about characters, personalities. I'm going to go with Marty Smith.
Yes.
Marty Smith has done a really, really good job for a long time now. At this point, it's more than just Marty and McGee. In the lead up on SEC Nation, he's really, really good on sidelines. I like his just the interviews, and maybe just the flow that he has with coaches when he's talking to them. It's easy, it's smooth. He does a really, really good job. As far as sideline guys, I know this makes two of them that I've taken. A good sideline reporter is actually really important. There's a couple here that I haven't brought up at all, and I don't know how you feel about this. We haven't really talked about sideline reporters that much, but I'm not a Holly Rowe fan. So
Yeah.
I'm more of maybe used to be. I struggle with Holly Rowe, whatever. I think Laura Rutledge does a really good job. I think she's excellent. There's another one, Molly McGrath. I
Yeah.
think does a really, really good job. Fox is Jenny Taft.
Yeah.
Okay job. But yeah, I think with Laura Rutledge and Molly McGrath, I think they do a really good job. Marty Smith is elite at it. He is elite at sideline reporting. I will take him with my 9th pick. Actually, kind of happy he's still on here. Absolute personality right now.
Yeah, that was a name that I was definitely eyeing. We couldn't have gone this entire draft and not taken Marty Smith. We've talked some about guys feeling like they're one of us. Marty Smith maybe feels like that as much as anybody out there.
Yes. Yes.
Just
Absolutely.
feels like just an everyman's man. Like, yeah, that's just seems like a good dude.
Yeah.
And as far as the sideline reporter, like I agree with almost everything you said about all of those different sideline reporters. Yeah, I would be okay with less Holly Rowe in my life.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I will not be taking her with my final pick here. Before I make my final pick, I'm going to mention just a few honorable mentions, I guess. One is David Pollock. I really miss him on game day. He was like the best thing on that show.
He's gone now. He's not even he's not a personality anymore.
Exactly.
He's out completely.
Yeah. So I can't take him. I wish we had him back in college football, because he was as good as anybody at breaking down games and matchups and being level-headed, I guess, and just doing a really good job. I really like him. Andy Staples, I think, does a pretty good job. I don't listen to him near as much as I used to since he left the Athletic and left for On3. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I just think he has a pretty engaging personality and is a guy whose opinion I value. Bud Elliott is a guy I really value a lot as far as his views on data and analytics, and I think he does a good job with that. My final pick, though, is an up-and-coming play-by-play guy. Most people know about Ian Eagle. I'm taking his son, Noah Eagle. He started to call a few college football games, and I think he's done a really good job. And man, he's with NBC, and excuse me, the Notre Dame broadcast is switching to Dan Hicks this year, which is a slight upgrade from Jack Collinsworth. Man, I would love it if it was Noah Eagle. I think he called maybe the Ohio State game last year, Notre Dame, Ohio State. I just want more of him in my life. And I think he's a really good voice, really good play-by-play guy. He could be taken a lot earlier in this draft, like 5 years from now. Like he's one of those talents, I think.
I think so as well. I was actually kind of surprised that he's not calling the Notre Dame games. Is he so with the new NBC Big Ten deal? He's probably calling a Big Ten game. Is that probably
I think
right?
so. Yeah.
Okay.
NBC is just not valuing the Notre Dame property like they used to with Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy. Put it that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys had like just an all-star cast there for a little bit. That was just only your games too.
Yeah.
You know, like they just followed you guys around all the time, which was fantastic. But yeah. It's welcome to the rest of us, I guess. Yeah. Welcome to life.
The rest of you don't have Jack Collinsworth and Jason Garrett yelling at you.
Hey, there was probably a 2-year stretch where it felt like Beth Mowins called every other Georgia game out there, and you just put it on mute. It's like what are we doing here? Every game, huh? Like, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. You can we don't need to get into all of that. There's some really, really bad ones out there that I do not know how they have jobs. Honestly, you listen to some guys call games, and it's a struggle. We don't need to go down the list that we don't like. We're trying to draft the ones that we do like, but there's a few out there where it's like, what are we trying to do here? Okay, this is my last pick. We're here for personalities, right? I'm still thinking about this. I haven't made a decision. Your David Pollock point is excellent. David Pollock would absolutely have been on this list for me had he still had a job. He does not. Another reason I strongly dislike game day. I feel like they're making poor decisions all the time over there.
Yeah.
They've replaced him with Nick Saban. We can now put Nick Saban on this list. He is now currently a media personality.
We don't really know how he'll do yet, but
we have no idea. So therefore, he does not get to be on it yet because you must earn this. By the way, Saban would tell you this. You must earn your spot on this list. Do I go Paul Feinbaum? Like, do I go Paul Feinbaum? Like, I mean, come on.
It's a big personality, that's for sure.
it is what it is with him. And yeah, there's you have to, like, every time Alabama loses, you do have to just listen to the show. I mean, it's electric. So I'm gonna skip it. I'm really strong. I'm really torn here. I do. You didn't take Bud Elliott, did you?
I did not. No.
I'm gonna go with Bud Elliott.
Okay.
I think that he has, I mean, he's been ahead of his time for years, right? The
Yeah.
blue chip ratio was his thing. I mean,
Yep.
he's been calling this thing for years now. He really has his finger on the pulse of recruiting. I love the podcast. He does a great job there.
Mm-hmm.
The analytics side of college football, it felt like college was just a little bit late. They were behind baseball, really football in general, especially the NFL. Football in general was behind baseball as far as analytics.
Yeah.
Baseball was there first, and then maybe basketball, and now NFL is, I mean, yeah, football in general is catching up. This guy was there ahead of it. This
Yeah.
guy was all over it. He's all about, like, when you should be going forward on fourth and, fourth and short, fourth and medium. Yeah, what is your, how good do you have to recruit to even, compete at a championship level? He has a lot of that down. I think he has great information, and then from a betting side of it as well. I mean, the
Yes.
guy just spits out winners. I mean, just stone cold winners every week. It's impressive where he finds value in teams. I listen to him just for that, honestly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you just do what he says and you'll win money. So I'm going to go with Bud Elliott. I think he's one of the most underrated guys out there, just from a betting market type, podcast type. I think he does a great job.
Yeah, I would agree completely with that. If you are out there listening to this and you want to start betting on college football, just listen to Bud Elliott, or I think you could even subscribe to like his newsletter or something, and he maybe hands out some more picks on there. Especially early in the season, he has an edge over Vegas. Like he actually does. Not many people do, but he does a great job with that. Um, Partially because he pays attention to injuries and things like that, where just the casual fan knows nothing about. The the
Yeah.
backup left guard for Rice is really bad. So they're going to lose by more than 21 this week. And like what the line is, like, yeah, he just, like, it doesn't matter if it's a G5 program or what. He just seems to know all of that stuff. So yeah, I really value his voice. Yeah. Well, let me just recap this. So I did have the first pick. I'll read my 10 picks. I have Josh Pate, Joe Tessitore, Sean McDonough, Robert Griffin III, Kirk Herbstreit, Tom Fernelli, Bill Connolly, Bruce Feldman, Reese Davis, and Noah Eagle. Your 10 picks are Chris Fowler, Brad Nessler, Cole Kubelik, sorry, Joel Klatt, Brady Quinn, Jesse Palmer, Gus Johnson, Jordan Rogers, Marty Smith, and Bud Elliott. Um, I don't think there's a really bad pick on this list. I didn't look at any of your picks and think, well, that was dumb. Maybe you could say that about mine. I don't know. What picks are you most jealous of, and which picks are you like, there's no way I would take that dude?
No, these are all good picks. Honestly, we're only
Yeah.
picking 10 aside, and like, there's enough really, really good guys out there. Now, one thing, like, if you would have went with your third overall pick and went with like Desmond Howard, like, that one would have been an eyebrow raiser.
Oh,
That one would have been a question mark, right? Like, I
yes.
would have maybe had issues there. A guy that a guy that I left off, like Tim Tebow, on
Hmm.
SEC Nation, like there's still really, there's a lot of talented guys on this list here that we didn't come up, that we didn't pop off with here in our top tens. Guys that are really interesting and do a really nice job. So I think Booger McFarland, honestly, I think he does a
Sure.
really good job on ESPN. He's been really good for them covering this. So there's a lot of names out there. I have no problem with any of yours. I would say that, I mean, Kirk Herbstreit could have fallen down the list a little bit for me there. Like, we could have seen, if you would have picked him at 10, just to make sure that everyone knew that we didn't forget about him. We just had him at
Yeah.
10. That I would have accepted that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I like your list too. I was a little shocked you took Brady Quinn, not because I don't think he's worth it, just because I didn't know that you were that big of a Brady Quinn fan. Um, but yeah, I think him and Matt Leinart especially, I really value both of those guys. I think they both do a good job.